Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna start like this. I will put my camera here when we start drafting. Can you tell me where in the world you're joining from? I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. It's snowy and cold. And I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. But I've hesitated because it's such a vulnerable experience to be drafting and making mistakes live. So that's why I have not done this, even though I thought about it for many years. So I am going to show you a pattern drafting process, and I'm not prepared. So I haven't done like a test draft before. It will be very real-time problem solving because I think that's going to be really helpful, especially if you are more of a beginner when it comes to pattern making. And I am gonna be like explaining why I do things the way I do, so that you can follow along and hopefully be inspired and learn some things. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna show you the sketch I made. This is the pattern we are gonna be working on. This is like a painter's coat, kind of, and also it's gonna be unlined, quite summery, so like flowy summer coat. It has a raglan sleeve, and it has multiple seams on the raglan, so I think that's gonna be really fun. So as far as the process, like how much I've done so far is just a sketch. And I also have the fabric, and that's like a viscose blend, so it's quite lightweight. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, it's for my sister. She wants me to make, she knits for me, and I make clothes for her. That's a great exchange. Yeah, I think I will also introduce myself if anyone doesn't know me that well. I am Josephine. I am a pattern maker. I've been working in the fashion industry for the past 10 years, and I've also had my own sewing pattern company for almost the same amount of time. And I'm also a sewing mentor, and I want to inspire others to make more clothes and yeah, also start pattern making if that's something you're interested in. So let's get started. I'm gonna flip the camera around and put you up here so that you can see everything that I'm doing. And at any point during this session, if you have any questions or feedback or anything you're wondering about, just let me know in the chat. I will be able to see the screen and see whatever you're saying, so feel free to do that. So I'm just gonna put you up here. And also let me know if you can't see everything clearly. Okay. Yes. Perfect, so welcome. And if I get a lot of good feedback for this type of live, I will probably do it again. So this is the sketch. A summery coat jacket thing. That's what we're going to be working on. Let's see, is that okay? Yeah. Good. I have prepared like a base pattern. So this is like a base jacket pattern. No bust darts, no darts at all. Just quite a straight block. And this is gonna be, yeah, the base. And I also have a sleeve for that pattern. I also have a quarter scale ruler, like pattern maker ruler, so that when I say 10 centimeters on this ruler, it's actually a quarter of 10 centimeters, if that makes sense, so that I can use actual measurements. So that if you want to do something similar yourself, you will be able to take the measurements that I'm using, just for your information. So that would be the equivalent of a pattern ruler. And I also have a flexible ruler. And if you are drafting anything in like, what's it called, like 100% scale, like natural scale, you would be able to use your measuring tape for that. And this is to measure any curved lines like this. And this is also quarter scale, so that I can mention 10 centimeters and that's going to be accurate on my sketch. Okay, I also have, of course, tape. I have scissors, and I have a really fine pen to make accurate lines. And of course I have some pattern paper, just so that I can do some tracings. And this is really noisy, I'm sorry about that, but we're gonna start just with this paper. Okay, one last look. Whenever I start a new pattern draft, I make some notes for myself so that I know kind of the shape I want to go for, and if I have any specific things to think about. So this is obviously a raglan sleeve, but what's interesting here is we have one seam at the front, one at the back, but this is a woven fabric, so I think we're still gonna need a dart. So let's do it on this side. I think we're gonna need a dart at the shoulder that is around that length. So the sleeve is gonna be a 3-piece sleeve. 3-piece sleeve. We have a collar, but I'm not going to do a collar stand, so it's quite a simple collar. Quite a straight piece sewn directly onto the neckline of the coat. It's an A-line shape, and it's going to hit around mid calf length, because that's how my sister wants it to be. Yeah, if you joined later, this is for my sister. She wants a summer coat, so this is what I'm making. We also have pockets, welt pockets, and we have a row of buttons down the front. We also have a pleat at the back. Quite an interesting pleat, because it starts here and then we just have secured it in place like this with some top stitching, but the pleat goes all the way down to the bottom, and it's a box pleat. I'm just gonna write box pleat. And that's about it for this design. So let's move to the front and back bodies. I'm just gonna put my sketch here so I have it visible. Any questions so far? Everything is clear? Nothing you guys are wondering about? Okay, good. So let's see. The jacket block. The first thing is, I think the paper is not long enough to accommodate for the length that we want, maybe. So I'm gonna assume that it's gonna be to the end of the paper, like that's gonna be the full length. So what I've done here so far is I have put 2 straight lines 10 centimeters in from the edge of the paper to give myself enough space for the pleat at the center back and also the button placket at the center front. So if you're doing this on a full scale, you want to make sure that you don't put your block at the edge of the paper that you're using if you plan on making any kind of details. So this is center front and this is center back. This is how I like to place my pattern. This is the bust line, and we want to make sure that the front and the back line up at the bust line. Then we have a waistline, and this is the seat. And then we're just going to continue the pattern all the way down to the edge of the paper because that's as much paper as I have right now. So let's start with that. I am going to make the side seam go all the way down to the edge of the paper, like so. But we don't want to have a completely straight line. Let's look at the sketch again. It has quite a lot of volume in the body. So we're going to make sure that we accommodate that. I think we have enough ease at the bust line, but we're going to continue our line slanted so that we have more width in the pattern. And we want to make sure that we add the same amount on both the front and the back. The pattern is going to overlap because we don't have enough space here so the angles are going to overlap. So I am going to measure, I think around 12 centimeters. That's here. So hope you can see this, from the front side 12 centimeters and also from the back 12 centimeters, like that. And then I'm just gonna simply connect the lines from the armhole depth to our point, and the same here. That's going to be our new side seam. Okay, and whenever we have something that is a bit A-line shaped, that has a bit of width, you can't leave the bottom hem like this because it's going to look longer at the side than at the front. So if you want a straight hem, you're going to have to angle at the bottom. So the way we do that is I'm going to measure the total width. It's 42. And then I'm going to split that in 3. If anyone is really good at calculating things in their head, I'm not. So I have my calculator. 42 divided by 3, 14. Why is 3 such a hard number to divide by? 10, 14 is here, and 14 is here. So we have 1, 2, 3 parts. The first 2, we're just going to leave them as they are because we want the third. Yeah, so I didn't have to draw this line actually. I just need the third here. And I'm going to measure up our side seam let's do anywhere between 1 and 1.5 centimeters, maybe even 2 if you have a very voluminous skirt, for example. I'm just gonna do 1.5, and I'm going to connect the third mark with this new spot. And what I'm doing is I'm just slightly angling the bottom hem so that when we connect the pieces, it's going to be more of a smooth line and not like a V shape. We will have to true this later, but this is a good start to see if, yeah, to just have something to go on. And we're going to do the same at the back. I'm going to measure 1.5. And just to make sure that the front and the back are the same measurement, yeah, 42. That divided by 3 is 14 still. So let's measure 14 here. And I'm going to angle this. It will look a bit messy at this point because we have overlapping pattern pieces, but it will make sense in the end, I hope. Okay, so we have the general shape of the garment. Now let's do the center back. We need, basically we just need more fabric so that we can then create the box pleat. I'm going to use the entire 10 centimeters. This is 10 centimeters. That's what I'm going to do. And since this is put on fold, actually that's going to be quite a lot, like 20 centimeters in total. So let's just do, what do you guys think? Maybe like 7 centimeters. I'm just winging it. I'm just thinking like what would make sense to add into the pleat. Whenever you're making a line in pattern making, it's always recommended to have 3 points at the start, at the end, and 1 in the middle to make sure that you have a straight line. So I'm gonna measure 7 around here. So this is our new center back. Okay. At the center front, we're gonna add a button placket. Now, the only thing we need to know is how big is our button. I'm going to assume that my button is 2 centimeters wide in diameter. So I'm just going to add 2, and that's going to be to the middle of the button. No, let's see. Buttons are always at the center front. That's here. That's where the button is going to be placed. But then you want to add 2 centimeters if your button is 2 centimeters, so that when you have the button, it's going to be, you're going to have enough space at both ends of the button. Let me know if that makes sense. So if you have a button that is 2 centimeters wide, you want to add 2 centimeters from center front outwards. It just depends on the size of your button. That's why also sometimes when you buy a sewing pattern and the pattern calls for a button that is a certain size, and then you use a different size button, that can make the garment look a bit off. So you always want to make sure that if you change the size of your button compared to what the pattern recommends, you always change the button placket as well. So this is going to be our new front. So this is still center front. That's the center of the garment. But this is the new edge of the pattern piece. Okay. I'm just going to extend that. Okay. So for anyone who joined a bit later, this is what we're working on. This is the sketch. It's a summery, flowy coat for my sister. I figured I was going to do this construction anyways, so I might as well do this. And if no one showed up to my live, I would still have a pattern that I really need to make. So she's been waiting for this for a long time now, over a year. But in time for this spring, she might be able to wear it. So yeah, so this is just the sketch and the notes that we have so far. So far we have made the button placket, we have made the box pleat at the back, and we have added some width to the side. Now I think it's actually time to start working on the raglan and bring out the sleeve block that we have. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is decide where on the body, on this pattern piece, we want the raglan to go. Okay, actually bring back this one. So from my sketch here, I can see that the raglan is not going too far down like this, like you would see on like a sweater. It goes more up here, and we also have a seam here. But I think what we're gonna do is assume that we have a one seam raglan, so that we only make the dart from the beginning, and that's where most of the shape is. And then I'm gonna split down this part. Let's see if that works. So you can make a raglan sleeve in a few different ways. There's not just one way to do it. And that's the case with a lot of pattern making. Like there's not only one way to do it. There's never only one right way, even if people tell you that sometimes. So we're gonna start quite high. Now I'm gonna bring out my flexible thing, and I'm actually only gonna measure like 4 or 5 centimeters from the inner point of the shoulder, like along the neckline. Let's do 5. Let's do 4. That looks too much. Let's do 4. Okay, 4 centimeters. And so I measured from here to here, 4 centimeters. And obviously I want to make the space here longer because I want this kind of angle. But I don't want, like what you would usually do with the raglan is make something like this. So it goes almost to the armhole depth, and also might be a bit curved. But I'm gonna finish around here maybe. Yeah. Around here. I'm just gonna eyeball it. And what we're also gonna do is we want to make sure that the garment is not like hanging too much towards the back. Yeah, I hope you understand what I mean, but sometimes when you have a shirt and you have to always drag the neckline forwards because it's just hanging towards the back, the way we prevent this is we're gonna move the shoulder seam more towards the front. I'm gonna do 1 centimeter. Sorry. And when we do that, to make sure that we're not distorting the fit, we're going to add 1 centimeter to the back. So whatever you're doing on the front, you also have to do the corresponding thing on the back to make sure that your pattern is balanced. So I am going to extend the lines here and add 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter. Okay, so this line is gone and this line is gone. That's gonna be our new shoulder line before we even go into making the raglan. I'm also gonna make the points at the back. Let's see this one. So we did 4. On this one, I think we're gonna keep it the same. You don't have to. And I'm gonna do 4 from the original line. Working with like the original line of the construction. So 4 centimeters. And for the back, I'm just gonna check my sketch. I have it in front of me here. I'm gonna do the same. Wow, this ruler is really yellow. I don't know why. It used to be this color for reference. Okay. And instead of doing this line kind of curved, I'm gonna start by keeping it straight, just so I have a guideline. And I'm gonna do the same on the back piece. Let me know if you're bored so far, or if this is interesting and helpful. I can't really tell. Okay, that's the guideline for our raglan. And what's gonna happen is, this is the sleeve. We're basically gonna take these pieces and move them to the top of the sleeve. This can be quite confusing, but I'm gonna make it as clear as I can. Yeah, so I like to draw my curves freehand, and I'm gonna do that now, especially on a smaller scale. So I'm just gonna connect. Yeah, so this is actually gonna be a bit curved, but what you would do on a sweater, for example, is you're gonna do a curve that is more pronounced. But on this one, I'm just gonna connect the lines like that. Now this is our construction, and usually you wouldn't touch this. You wouldn't want to cut into your construction, because if you make any mistakes or anything, you can always go back to your construction. So I am gonna take a piece of pattern paper and trace these parts so that we can move them onto the sleeve to make the raglan sleeve. Okay, let's see, where is my pattern paper? And this is super noisy. I apologize for that. Okay, another trick for you. Take some tape, put it on your skin. I like to put mine here on my wrist. and when I'm out of space on my hand. This is going to prevent the paper from getting destroyed, and I will be able to tape in place when I trace, so that I then can remove without any paper breaking. I'm going to put it like that. So I will tape this piece in place. Okay, so I can see through here. So remember, we have removed 1 centimeter from the shoulder, so our new shoulder is here. So I'm going to start there, like that. And this seam. And let's actually use a ruler for this part. Okay. Let's see. This is the neckline, because this is a very confusing pattern piece. I want to make sure like that's the neckline. Okay, so now when I remove this, the paper is not gonna break. And let me actually cut this out and show you where to place it before we move on to the back. Neckline, front seam, okay, here is, well, the sleeve. If you can't tell, this is the front. How to see what's the front and the back on a sleeve is the front is a bit more curved and the back is a bit more straight here. Since this is the front, we're going to place it at the front. Some people do something like this. You can also add a bit of length here. I think that's better. And you see that here the curves kind of already line up and match, which is great. So I am going to measure at least 1 centimeter from the top of the sleeve cap, and that's going to be the point where I put down my pattern. So take your tape from your wrist to make sure it doesn't stick, and I'm going to point, let me know if you can't see. I hope you can. The point here, I'm going to put that on the center line at the 1 centimeter mark. And I'm also going to align it to the sleeve seam. And remember, the arrow we did, that's for the neckline. So the neckline is pointing upwards. Okay, now let's do the back. I think we need a new pattern piece. And more tape. Let me know at any point if you have any questions. I don't think I've gotten any questions so far. Let me see. No. Perfect. Okay. So I'm just gonna put some more tape. basically gonna do the exact same thing. Yeah, so I am gonna trace this. Remember, here at the back, this line is gone. We have added 1 centimeter to move the shoulder seam forward. I'm gonna trace the armhole, the curved line that we have made, the neckline with the added 1 centimeter. And I'm gonna trace the shoulder line. Okay, and just like last time, let's put an arrow pointing to the neckline. And let's cut it out. Let's go. It's actually one of my favorite kinds of patterns to draft, raglan, because it's so it's so different to other kinds of sleeves and armholes. Okay, so we have the sleeve, we have the second piece of raglan thing. Let's put some more tape on my wrist just to make sure I'm not destroying any paper. So 1 centimeter up from the sleeve cap, that's our anchor point. And I'm going to put it there and align the shape with the sleeve. Like so. You guys still with me? Yeah. Also some new people. Hello. Welcome. Yes. Let's see what the next step should be. Okay. So let's go back to looking a bit at the drawing. We have the sketch. This sleeve now has the dart. Here is the dart, but it doesn't have the 2 seams that we see here. So to figure out where they should go, I think we're gonna have to change the shape a bit. Maybe I can keep the sketch here. So at the front, we want a seam that goes kind of like that, and at the back kind of like that. Now this is going to be really hard to guess on a flat pattern like this. So this would need to be tested later on. Yeah. Okay, so remove this. I'm going to create a point where I want my line to end. And let's do 7 centimeters from the center. 7 seems to be a theme today. There we go. And I'm gonna aim this somewhere. So I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna aim it where I feel like it makes sense. So it kind of aligns here. And this is just eyeballing. Okay. That's the new line. And I'm gonna do the same at the back. This one isn't as obvious. You can do this a bit more towards the back like this, so it's not 7 anymore. Or should I do it even more like that? Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. Okay, maybe this makes sense. Let me know if you think this is gonna work to create this sleeve. I think so. So as you can see, maybe, this is now a 3-part sleeve. This is the front, that's here. This is the middle, that's here. And then the back piece, that's this one. The sleeves are also very straight in shape, and this is more narrow towards the end. So I'm gonna bring the shape out a bit. Let's see how to do that. Yeah, at the side. So I'm gonna bring it out maybe 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters. And 2 centimeters at the front as well. I'm gonna continue the curve a bit. Yeah, just eyeball it. Yes, I'm gonna keep the same measurement at the bicep. So just drawing a straight line towards the end. Now this is also something that I would need to test on a 12. Okay. So let's see if this makes sense. Yeah. Now what we can do, so like I told you, I would usually not cut into a construction. We want to keep the construction in case we do, like we make any mistakes and we want to go back to the drawing board. We have a clean construction to go from. So I am going to trace the pattern pieces, and hopefully now it will make a bit more sense. So let's start at the front. So I'm putting the tape on my wrist to make sure I'm not destroying the paper. I'm going to tape it in place so that we can trace the raglan sleeve. So the front piece is going to start here. And we're going to go down to the new, like the new side of the sleeve, new side seam, inseam. And then we're going to trace this line right here, all the way up to where it goes here. And we're just going to trace this one. The grain line is going to be, yeah, so I'm putting this line on top of the bicep line on the sleeve. and I'm just gonna go straight down. That's the direction of the grain line. Yeah, this line is not needed. So that's at the front. I'm also gonna put a notch here so that we know we're putting the pieces together correctly. Okay, the next piece is gonna be, yeah, the middle piece. I need some more paper for that. Like that. Let's start with the straight lines. And we have here the bottom, and I'm gonna trace the neckline. Wow, that's hard to see. Like that. No, that's not correct. So the shape at the shoulder, it's gonna come from this piece, the middle piece, because this is where the shaping is. There we go. I'm gonna put the notches so that we know we are gonna put this back together correctly. And the grain line, of course. I'm aligning my ruler with the bicep line, and this is the new grain line. Okay. The last piece is this one. So that's, yeah, that's wrong. I just looked at the time and I'm realizing we're almost out of time. Oh, so I got a bit stressed. Okay. We are going to trace this and I'm going to explain what we have done so far. That's where the line is. And I wouldn't recommend doing curves freehand if you're doing this in natural scale. But just, I mean, when you have done it enough times, you can do that because you know what a good curve looks like. And again, the notch, and also the grain line. There we go. If you're still with me, we're just gonna cut these pieces out. So now that we have the 3-piece raglan sleeve, let me show you how this would look like sewn together. I'm gonna make a little model for you. piece number 1, that's the front. Piece number 2 is the middle. And this is the piece that has the dart at the shoulder. Yeah. Okay. Just like that. And this is the neckline. And this is the dart. So that's piece number 2. If you are one of my students already, you will have seen me make these kind of paper toiles in quarter scale in the online material. It's actually quite fun and also really good if you want to get a better understanding of patterns. So I highly recommend experimenting a bit with making like small toiles in paper. I'm gonna make some smaller pieces of tape for this part, and so that I'm gonna be able to sew this together. Okay, let's start at the notch. I'm also going to sew it together at the bottom. That. And also at the shoulder. So this is the front raglan, and this is the back, and this is where the shoulder is gonna come. So let's sew that together. Sorry, I'm gonna show you. That's the neckline. Still putting the tape on my wrist to make sure I'm not destroying the paper. Have you ever made a paper toile before? Let me know. I really like it. It was also a big part of pattern making school, at least where I went. We were supposed to make these paper toiles for every construction we made. So I have a huge binder with just constructions like this, and then like a 3D paper model. Okay. Wow, this is tricky. I'm gonna have to put it this way. Okay. So as you can see, we have now created a shoulder curve. I'm going to continue just until I have shown what this looks like. Yeah, let's do it like this. And of course, let me know if you want another session like this. Oh, this is not collaborating. Okay. Okay, and then if we put the sleeve together. Like that. Okay, this is my arm now. That's kind of what the sleeve is gonna look like. Oh, thank you. Sara said that det var väldigt lärorikt. That was very insightful, I guess. That's great to hear. So, I only managed to make the paper towel for the sleeve. So that was what our construction looked like. And this is the final sleeve. And the front piece would look like this. Like here is the line and this is just gone towards the sleeve. Let's bring out the sketch again. So what we haven't done yet is the collar and the pockets. Otherwise we have like everything we need here. So let me know what you thought and if you want me to do this again. I had fun, so that's great. And thank you so much for everyone who joined, and let's see when we can do this next time. And if you want to learn more from me, send me a DM and I will give you some information about my mentorship and my course. See you! Bye!